Hey folks, we're back, and I'm going to be showing off adding a Raven miniature to this character right here that you're going to be seeing on your screen. It's been a while. Life's gotten a bit crazy on my end. I'm happy to be back. I'm Tales from the Basement. Let's get into it. So, the first thing you do with Mesh Mixer, that's the program I'm going to be using for this. It is a no longer supported program by Autodesk, but I believe you can still download it and use it. It's a free program, and I've gone ahead and imported the file I'm going to be using or adding to. We'll go from there. I'm going to real quick fix the chat window. Thanks, Shardangers King. I know this is a commission for you, and I thought I'd go ahead and show it off, and maybe you'll be able to do it for yourself later on. It's super easy. So from this screen, after I've already imported the 3D file, because you have to import it, you can't just drag and drop it into the software, I have to do that again. And so you go up to Import, and it's going to have a pop-up window, but the way I have my stream set up, you're not going to be able to see that, but it says you can append the imported mesh to the current mesh or replace the current mesh. In this instance, we are going to append it. It means it's going to create two separate instances of files that you can then merge instead of completely starting over. From there, I know for Schrodinger's King, they had a specific request of which Raven in the file bundle he provided to me. So I'm going to go ahead and click that in the pop-up window that you guys can't see because OBS is dumb. And it's going to be generating the mesh real quick. And once I move this guy, you can see both of these models are now on the screen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have the Raven selected using this objects browser. And then we're going to go to edit and then transform. At that point, we can then rotate this mini any way we want, back and forth, using all of these different options. Now I'm going to assume, and Schrodinger can correct me if I'm wrong, the raven on this shoulder right here. So we're going to try our best to position this miniature, or this file, onto the shoulder. Alright. So we're going to have some collisions here. We're going to try to minimize that as best we can. I'm going to say we make the bird a little smaller. This is just a little off scale-wise. So we can also, in the same browser screen right here, it's going to enable uniform scaling. We're just going to play with sizes. Let's make this 8mm to start with. Let's go 7. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility in how we can place the raven and not make it look so awkward. We can also help any potential collisions by rotating this a little bit. Let's rotate it a little bit more. This is one of those things that really just comes down to how you feel about it. For instance, wherever you think it looks best. Well, that's one of those things. So when you're kit bashing, it really just depends on what you think looks best. And I think this is going to be awkward because of the placement of the feet, but I'm going to quickly show you guys a way that you can change the position of the feet themselves so that they're not quite as awkward. So we're going to go ahead and hide the main body of the intended model, so Kellerick. In this instance, we're going to make them disappear using the visual icon in the object browser. And then I'm going to go over to select and use the lasso tool, and we're going to lasso this foot right here. This is the one I want to change the position of. You can see that it's now selected in that little box. What we're going to do is we're going to click edit, or go up to the edit, and then let's go to, nope, it is deform, and then transform, and we can now rotate that foot. See how here is now rotating on this axis, and then we can raise it up to where it looks more natural again. So right there, we've now changed his feet a little bit. So now we're going to click, before we even click accept, we want to see if it's kind of the positioning we want. And there we go. It's a little less awkward to position here. So we're going to click on select again. Clear selection. Go to transform. And now we can lower the model down, and it's not as awkward of a transition point of having the two legs, one sunken way deeper into the shoulder than the other. This way it looks more natural, and when we do the combination, it looks like it was originally part of the model. So you can see right there, that already looks more natural, but I'm going to push it a little bit further just so I can get his right foot a little bit closer, and I might even take the claw here and adjust that down a little bit so it actually looks like it's gripping the fabric. So we're going to make color disappear again. We're going to go back to select, lasso. We're going to once again lasso, clear selection, lasso, like it. I want to go a little bit higher up on the leg. Awesome. Just double checking. I'm not getting anything I didn't select. Now we go back to deform and then transform. We're gonna push it just a little bit further. I don't know why it's all the way over here, but Mesh Mixer can get a little weird when you do this sort of thing. So get a little bit closer look. That's looking a lot better to me. I'm gonna click accept, and then I'm gonna go ahead and clear selection. Go back to the lasso. We're going to do this little claw like I had mentioned earlier. Same thing. Go to the transform. Make that claw. You know what? I'm going to do this in a couple sections so it doesn't look just like at one point, just it still stays straight. We want it looking like it's gripping. So we're going to try to get a little bit more motion on the joints themselves. So we're going to click accept, clear selection, go back to select, once again lasso, but let's choose a different joint to do this on. Go to deform, transform, there we go. Now that's looking like a little bit more natural of a grip. And then after we clear selection, alright, let's make caloric invisible again. And that's already looking a lot better. I'm starting to think, though, that the way this is positioned now, the leg looks a little stiff. It's not quite right. So I think I'm actually going to pull this leg off to the side a little bit. And we're going to do the exact same thing we've been doing. We're going to, again, make color disappear just so we have a clean workspace. Go back to select. The lasso tool. Let's go ahead and select this guy. Let's keep it a little bit higher. Let's go with deform, transform. We're going to rotate them out just a little bit. It's looking a little bit more natural. Checking to make sure any of the seams are actually good. Now you use your scroll wheel to pan like this, and then you use your right click to rotate, and left click is all your selections. It took me a while to figure all that stuff out. So helping you out helps everyone out in the future. Alright. I'm thinking that already looks a little bit more natural, so we're going to click accept. Alright. Now we have a little bit more freedom to position, maybe. Let's just see how, if we can make this a little bit more natural at this point before we make any more changes to the posing of the model. Without any collisions. Alright, so I'm thinking maybe we should rotate the toes right here. Maybe this foot right here we should rotate in this kind of manner. So once again, do that. Go select. Now, Schrodinger, I'm gonna stream this in this way and like position on the shoulder. But if you want the bird to be on the forearm or anything like that, let me know, and I'll save both files, and you can choose which. I can show both off right now. It's really no issue. Let's use the lasso again. This time we're going to come in from this angle. Try to get the most consistent line. Double check. Yep, that's all along the joint I want them to rotate on. We're going to go to deform, transform. That's looking the most natural. There's not really any weird seams that we're getting. And remember, this model is going to be this tall. It's going to be tiny. Wow, my light is wreaking havoc. It's tiny. So a lot of these seams that we're seeing, so huge on our screen right now, are not going to be visible. Like, all these little steps that you see that aren't quite perfectly aligned, a lot of that's not even going to be picked up by your printer. It's so small and minute that you're not going to be able to notice those little artifacts. But we try to do our best anyways. It takes some learning. I can definitely see where people have gotten a little lost in it. I had to watch a lot of tutorials and wade through information that was meant for large-scale modeling for like CAD software, or using it for actual like engineering projects, which is not what I was going for. So I'm just hoping to pass on information that's miniature specific. So I think I'm gonna rotate it a little bit further. Make sure it's lined up a little bit better. Not so many artifacts. I got weirdly shifted. And also, I'm not so worried about how bad the underside looks. I'm mostly concerned of what are the visible portions. We're gonna rotate a little bit, knowing how his shoulder is. We're also gonna click accept. That's a little bit closer to like a gripping motion. And I mentioned I wanted to rotate this one also. So we're gonna do clear selection, go back to the lasso, and okay, let's look for the ankle joint. Alright, that looks pretty good. We are going to again transform. We're just gonna work on our rotation just a little to make it a little bit more natural once it's actually on the body. Yeah, let's see how that looks. Go ahead and click accept. Ooh, actually, I want to go back to being selected. Undo. Undo. There we go. I need to line this up a little bit so it's not quite as awkward looking. Alright, imperfect world. Try our best anyways. Now this is very much the ghetto way of doing things. If I had the time to learn ZBrush, I would, or even Blender to actually rig up the model and change it this way. But since we're working at something such a small scale, again, these kind of artifacts aren't even going to be seen. And I'm not super concerned with them because I can show you, like on my Instagram, a model I did for myself in the same campaign that this character is in. The model looks like a mess in Mesh Mixer, but painted looks fantastic. And it's the it was Kitbash from the Weary Night on my mini factory. It's on my Instagram as a personal mini. It's the character holding a glaive. So with that being said, I can hit accept now. Clear selection, and let's see what that looks like. Already, this looks so much more natural than what we had before. We're still getting a little bit on this toe. I've been having my brother-in-law try to teach me ZBrush because he's a super talented modeler. He does a lot of bronze casting. I get super lost. Just super lost in ZBrush. Blender is worse for me. so much worse. Mesh Mixer, I feel like I've learned it enough to where I'm like, okay, it's what I can use for my purposes. If I need something more, I'll actually sit down and focus on it. But right now, Mesh Mixer works for what I want it to do. And I haven't really had any complaints with it besides running into a few issues like when I'm actually trying to design a product. Like, I'm working on a flight stand right now, design that is height adjustable and clicks at certain heights. It's something I'm working on. And I would not be able to design this in Mesh Mixer at all. It definitely has its limitations, but I do like it for the most part. I'm going to back to the model. Absolutely. They're absolutely warlocks. It definitely sold parts of their lives learning it. So back to this raven. I'm going to go ahead and take each of these toes and rotate them down individually. I just noticed that we're getting a little bit of clipping right here. But I'm not sure that that would be out of character. I'm not sure that would be a poor thing. Because I feel like this character is most likely very close with their familiar and doesn't mind their ear rubbing up. But let's say you. So I'm gonna go back to hiding Kellerick, and then I'm going to once again select lasso, and then this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm gonna try to thread this needle. Not select anything I don't want to. Check. Form, press form. Again, going forward to the most visible artifacts on this thing. I think I need to pull out a little bit to make it just smoother. Because even though... Alright, that's... Alright, I'll also show you how to smooth some of this out before I get too... before I get too far on this. Because, all this... Again, this looks huge on the screen, but remember, this model is going to be, that big. Get back to this. I'm thinking that that's... I think I want it to rotate a little more. Yeah. Alright. Accept. So probably the Raven more cares more than the character does. All right, so I'm gonna clear my selection. That's looking pretty good. And once again, we're gonna use the lasso tool. And I'm gonna do something a little funny here. I'm actually going to create a kind of V-shaped selection. Alright, that's looking pretty good to me. And go to transform. Yeah, ravens are actually weirdly clean creatures. I had a friend growing up who actually found a raven's nest as a kid, and it had 3 raven's eggs in it. It had been abandoned. So they rescued the eggs and hatched them. Unfortunately, 2 of the raven hatchlings did not make it, but one of them did, and he grew up with this raven as a pet, and he was super smart, and I didn't know this until I actually went over to their house, that ravens can actually talk like parrots. It's something called freeing the tongue, and they can mimic like parrots do. It's weird. Ravens are one of my favorite animals, actually, because they're just so stinking smart. Alright, so we've adjusted the toes now, and we're going to bring it back in. And I'm saying that looks pretty good. I think I need to adjust this toe a little further down. Oh, we're getting pretty close to actually this guy already being done. Though, if Short Raven's King wants me to throw the raven on this arm, I can certainly try. Not to quote Matt Mercer or anything. I think I'm actually going to adjust both of these toes and just from these joints. So, Heidi Kellerick again. Lasso. That's not going to work. What? Let's go with cancel. Alright, it looks like it's not gonna like us doing the ravens. When you raise them and you give them gifts and all that, you're actually initiating yourself into a flock? Are ravens still a murder? I don't know. But they consider you one of theirs, and they act when one of theirs is getting abused. They all hate the abuser. They're fascinating. Yeah, it didn't like me doing both those toes at the same time. Alright, ooh, wow. Very important to go from different angles. Holy crap. That one's good. And let's select again. Music's distracting me. I prefer conspiracy, personally, because that sounds cool. And conspiracies aren't necessarily unkind. If anybody's wondering, that's watching the stream later, I'm talking to the live chat. Something up with that. I need to rotate it this way. There we go. Yeah, let's get that down. How's my audio level, by the way? I am using a new mic, and I haven't really tested it with OBS besides listening to recordings of myself, which is very uncomfortable. The sound of my own voice still makes me uncomfortable, so... Let's just bring it back. A little quiet in comparison to my background music. Alright, I can fix that. Turn my background music down and turn my mic up. How's that? Is it a little bit better now? Alright. Ooh. Oh, crap. Okay, it needs to be rotation. I can't freaking see this. I mean, I'm not limited to just miniature knowledge. I actually, I used to want to be a zoologist. It was my dream at one point. Spent a lot of time at the Wild Animal Park as a homeschooler. For those listening, that is the San Diego Zoo Safari Park in Valley Center, California. The homeschooler or the zoologist bit? Yeah, I basically went to the Wild Animal Park about once a week growing up. And that was for a period of like 5 years, because the passes to the Wild Animal Park were super cheap. And I just fell in love with the whole thing, and then I developed allergies to pretty much everything. I knew I was allergic to cats, so big cats were kind of out of the bag. I wanted to be a falconer. That's what I wanted to do. Do falconry. That apprenticeship fell through, and then I just developed allergies to a bunch of different types of animals, and wasn't able to do it. But yeah, that is something I wanted to do. And so when it comes to any animal that existed at the Wild Animal Park for a while, I probably have a bit of factoids about them. Once had a serval jump onto my shoulders during one of the shows when it wasn't supposed to, and just start chewing on my ear. And the zookeeper was just like, well, I can't really pull you off of it without just damaging your ear more, so don't sue us. But that was super cool for me. I was like 13 at the time, 14. Alright, I think my solution here. Servals are... they're not huge. They're still considered a small cat, and they have really long legs, but I honestly would not place them as much bigger than a Maine Coon. They're just a lot skinnier, but I wouldn't place them as exactly bigger than them. Definitely lighter. Alright. Let's now just kind of see if we can position them a bit better again. Gonna rotate. Just bring it in just a tad. Oh. And let's bring it down. Alright, I'm thinking we're looking pretty good right here. I'm going to actually deform the cloak here, because I'm gonna think Maine Coons. Well, how am I supposed to say it? Thank you. I'm glad they're looking good. I'm actually going to deform the cloak here a little bit, so I'm actually going to switch to Kellerick. Let's do Kellerick, and let's go Sculpt. And then we're actually going to go... oh was it shift makes it go down? Let's make the bubbles smoother. Size. Alright, that's about what I want. Let's go strength and just start clicking a little bit. Interesting. This model is So see that this, when I started brushing, a weird bump showed up on his shoulder, which means the mesh isn't set up correctly, which isn't surprising. This is a Hero Forge model, right? I believe this is a Hero Forge model. Yeah. I've noticed on Hero Forge models that the meshes do weird things like that. Oh, yeah. That checks out. Pushing the limits of what is tiny. Huh. That existed before. Oh, it's his arm poking through. That's not from what I did. Cool. I totally know what I'm doing. Well, so I know it must be super hard for, actually, I've been a part of the beta testing team for Titancraft, another miniature, customizer software that's coming out. I backed on Kickstarter a while back. I know that having, essentially what Hero Forge and Titancraft and Eldritch Foundry and all of them are actually doing is this. This is what they're doing, but on a scale of hundreds of people doing it every day, and they have to make sure that the assets connect at the right points. Like it's it gets complicated, and a lot of the ways that they do stuff kind of doesn't make sense to me. But yeah. Okay. I want this to be a inflate, but I'm gonna hit shift. I believe shift is the opposite. Nope. What was it? Alt? I forget that there's a command that actually makes it go work in the opposite direction. Absolutely. Okay, I'm having issues having this do what I want it to do. Ah, did I just discover the one I want to use? Yes, yes I did. So we're going to rotate it back and forth, kind of drag it. And that makes the claw look like it's actually depressing into the fabric and smoothing it out a little bit. So we're going to keep doing that. Do it side to side so we can expose more of the talon. Now, because these aren't actually combined yet, yes, absolutely. The fact that it's not as easy as a video game character, because a lot of the textures you see on a video game character aren't actually physically there in a digital sense. Like, there's a popular Destiny, or the video game Destiny, there's an STL generator for that game, but it only gives you the physical dimensions of the video game model. You don't get any of the textures. So, for instance, the last word, the hand cannon from the doesn't matter. The hand cannon, the last word in the video game Destiny, all that, the words, the text machina, the gold filigree, none of that is actually physically on the model. That is all texture work. So when you generate the STL off of the game files, you only have the very blank physical model, and you have to add all the other crap back in, which makes it a lot more difficult when you're, say, doing cosplay and you want to use the exact model from the video game, and you from like Dota 2, and you pull it out and you get it, and it's just a freaking flat triangle. It has none of the magic texture, none of the scroll work, nothing. It's very frustrating when you actually start getting into that sort of thing. So that raven is starting to look like it belongs. Bugs me a little bit that the bird isn't sitting completely level, but honestly, I know this model is going to rotate a little bit when you actually glue it onto the base, because that knee is not actually on the surface. But they're looking in the same direction. The pose is looking good. So, at this point, the last time I showed this off on a stream of how to like combine models and all that, I used the Boolean Union tool. Oh, real quick, I'm actually going to use the same tool to kind of smooth these guys out. So, let's just go with Bubble Smooth. We can just select the Raven, obviously, and use the Sculpt tool again, brushes, we're going to Bubble Smooth, and we can just click this, and all that crack that we've been looking at is suddenly a lot more smooth. Like you can see right there, that looks a hell of a lot better. That was a little too much, so I'm actually going to reduce the strength here by a fair amount, and then maybe reduce the strength a little bit more. Alright, so you see that's not looking great. So I'm going to go back to the Shrink and Smooth. There we go. It's looking a lot better. Go back to Bubble Smooth. It's basically like an autofiller, but the models have to be connected. You can't say that there's like a crack. You can't fill that up with this tool. You have to figure out some other way to fill in that gap by either adding another model to fill that gap and then using the smooth tool, or something I haven't figured out how to do yet. But yeah, it's basically a gap filler, essentially. Honestly, that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go up here, smooth this guy out. Excuse me while I just shove this raven in your face. And again, I'm kind of just worrying about anything that's actually visible. Like, okay, that's a big step right there. So I'm going to nah, man, you see how to grab the like small ass brush and do it that way. That's looking a lot better. needs to be smoothed out a little bit. It kind of helps that my day job is actually noticing small blemishes and stuff. It's made me a lot more sensitive to when stuff is not lined up correctly. I've gotten to the point where over the span of 6 feet, I can tell if something is a 32nd of an inch out of square. Now this is the sort of thing you're never going to see this part of the model, even when you're painting it. You're not going to see it. But I like to clean it up anyways. And keep in mind, this is also going to be painted black. So again, it's going to be even less noticeable. I'm going to come back with the filler one. Hit that again. All right. Voila. Trying to get out of the brush mode. Yeah, definitely. Alright, so now comes to actually combining the two models. I have a way simpler way of doing this now, because 3D printing, it doesn't have to be Boolean Union. I'm glad you like him. I'm definitely glad you like them. Alright, so you're gonna take left shift and go over to the object browser, and you're gonna click on the second model. So now you have both selected. Then you're gonna come up to this menu here. I used to say, do the Boolean Union. I've noticed absolutely no difference between doing this complicated process versus just hitting combine. I've noticed no difference. My prints have come out exactly the same. Models are perfectly combined as far as I can tell. I was following the advice of somebody who did this before, and I can understand from a certain perspective why he did it that way in the video. He was showing how to set up to where you have to, for your printer, pull off the arm and then create pins that fit into each other. Like that kind of makes sense because you have to make sure it's sharp in the way that works. I get it, but for this sort of thing, I've noticed no difference at all. And if you're going to be doing this, I highly suggest you just hit combine. It's going to take a couple seconds, and there you go. That's now one model. It's as easy as that. It's none of this. If I was to do this again, I'm going to go ahead and undo it. And undo. Try to make them back into two pieces. I know I can do that. If I was to do this, and hit shift, and do Boolean Union. First of all, you get that. And then you have to change all of these parameters to very specific numbers, or it turns into a blob of goo. No. Cancel. We're just gonna hit combine. Because I can't for the life of me remember what all of those numbers in that menu are meant to be. I look up the video every time I had to do it. It's complicated as crap. Just hit combine. And that is the finished Kitbashed model. That's Kellerick with his Raven. Hold on. I'm finding the name so I can butcher it. Scrolling back through chat. Nope. Scrolling is not being my friend. Aha! Akhlormor. Akhlormor? Duty to die. Whoa, that's goth. Am I saying it correctly? last name. No idea if I'm saying it correctly. That's fair. I believe this is a swashbuckler. What is it? What is he? I'm saying it correctly. Well, I'll be damned. I'm usually terrible at that. Alright, well, I guess I can show you what I do to set up prints. And we'll go from there. So you're actually going to hit... College of Whispers. That checks out even more. Alright, so now that we have it selected, we're going to go ahead and hit Export. A pop-up window for your File Explorer is going to pop up, and you save your file as you wish. I'm going to name it Kellerick. With more. And we're going to save it in the OBJ format, so we can actually throw it into our Lychee program. So, save. One or more objects is being exported as complex. All minis are complex. Just hit continue. So now it's actually into a loading screen. It's saving the file, and I'm going to switch to my Lychee scene. That's true. Though there is actual pronunciations for the entire Elvish language. There's a girl I was friends with in high school who could speak Lord of the Ring, or Sindarin? Tolkien Elvish fluently. And because we were homeschooled, it counted as her foreign language. So that was pretty cool. And honestly, when I run names of characters that are Elvish in nature, I actually run them past her still to figure out how to pronounce the name. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my Lychee scene. Let's see if it actually works for me today. There we go. Oh, no, we're still on... This isn't Lychee. This is Mesh Mixer. Excuse me? Alright, I'm going to close Mesh Mixer because this is... Okay, it's being very strange. Okay, now we're on the right spot. Alright, so now we're in Lychee. I'm going to go ahead and throw Kellerick. Excuse me. It seems that I've lost the character. Bear with me. Hello? No, give me the... Found him. Okay. Oh, I know my File Explorer is about to die. Oh yeah, he went into the folder with Zane for some reason. I don't know, man. I think once I'm done showing off how I prep the prints and all that, I'm actually going to show off a kitbashing I recently did of Zane for his following level, or if I just buy a spell scroll. I kit bashed using this pretty much the same method, but in a way longer process to make him sit on a mount. Okay, why are you doing this to me? Add. Why are you doing this to me, Lychee? Trying to make me look bad? There we go. Alright. He's now on the build plate. So, the first thing I'm noticing if I go to print him, this is a really large surface area to print at once. It's going to cause some weird misshaped spots on the cloak. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate him. Actually select him. We're just going to make it to where there's less surface area at any given time, pulling off of the FEP. So that looks pretty good to me, in all honesty. Now I'm just going to hit magic, auto orientation off, light supports. I'm feeling lucky. I'm very lazy. But then, I'm going to prepare. I look for any spots that don't look like they're supported correctly. Like here, you add 2 more supports. Shin's looking kind of like a gap right there. Right there. Those pumps need some extra support. And I'm thinking that needs a little extra support. Yeah, Lychee has improved a lot. And now I'm actually thinking that there are too many supports here. It's going to actually make the blade a little weird. So I'm going to say that's good. And with the shape, I'm going to throw one, if I can, on his beak. I'm going to adjust that. A lot of people don't seem to realize that you can adjust supports that you place to make them better. Okay. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and Schrodinger had a bunch of models, wanted him on his own base as well. Alright, look at you. Wanted Aquamore separated out. So I've actually had a couple of people ask me recently, like, okay, Keelan, how do you like position your models for printing? I do it for the least amount of supports possible. The less supports you can do, the better. Ignore Keller off to the right for just a moment. Secondly, you want the least amount of visible points of connection in the finished product. What I mean by that is I want supports, and where they terminate on the model, where they are providing support, to have the least amount of visible scarring when you are looking at the model. So, for instance, I want all of my supports to be on the undersides of things, so that when I'm looking at the model from the top, I'm not going to see any of the pitting from the supports. I want all of those hidden underneath the model or in folds of clothing that where if it gets pitted, it looks like an actual intentional part of the mold. So that's kind of my philosophy there. And then thirdly, very much so. And thirdly, I want the least amount of surface area printing at once, so there's no weird pressures from pulling it off of the build plate. For instance, oh, I actually glued that onto something. I print miniature bases for myself. They're all magnetized. They're all special. They work with my system of stuff that I've designed. It's super difficult to print them without there being weird bumps from where the supports were pulling during the printing process. It's almost like a series of like little cones around each support piece, and I hate that. Bases I don't mind as much because I always print them upside down to where the top of the base is actually where all the scarring is, because I always add stuff to my miniature bases. Always. I always put something on top. I never do just plain black bases on anything I print or anything I paint, because to me, I want the base to be a part of the story. When I am building a model, I'm thinking about the environment of their backstory and like where you'd find them. For instance, a character I played in a previous campaign, Trader's King would know him, Errol Flynn. In each of the 3 iterations of his model, the base was different based off of where he'd been, where his story had taken him, all that. The first model was just simple dirt with some grass tufts. He was kind of out on his own in the wilderness and stumbled upon the group that he became a part of, but was still kind of a loner. The second model, he had gained friends. His mentor had recently died, so his position changed. His model changed, where he's holding the last word from Destiny 2, because he had earned that. But the base of the model changed because he found himself more and more in environments of struggle. And so there were more broken rubble pieces, more rocks, mud, that sort of thing. And then when you get to his final model, he was exposed to radioactive rocks and had gained the first curse from Destiny 2 as a part of his further storyline. And so on his base, I actually put glowing rocks because that was a large event that shaped his character for a while, and I wanted that to be a part of his character. And so for a character that I play now, for the horse that he rides on that particular base, I made it all rubble and darkness, and his blade lights up. And I made it to where the entire environment was lit up with an OSL effect, an object source lighting that made the rubble beneath glow as if he was lighting the darkness. And I did the same thing on his standing on his own. And that's something that's super important to me, is that every base adds to the story of the character you're playing. Or if you are running a group of dwarves as the dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons, you want those bases to tie them together, to unify them as a unit. Zane Sword does not actually light up. I looked into doing it. It's way too complicated. I even thought about doing UV sensitive paint and putting a black light on the base, but again, it just got too complicated, and I kind of gave up on that project for now. For now, I'm still looking into it because I'm also looking for. I'm going to be designing a product that has to do with LED lights and auras of characters. So, I'm currently researching that project. But, going back to the whole printing and everything, I want the bases to tell a story. I want them to be a part of what's being played at the table. That being said, we're going to keep moving on with this base before I go on another tangent about this stuff. I'm feeling pretty good about how this one's going to get supported. Make sure auto orientation is off. I agree. I'm just terrible with electronics, so I don't know how to do them. It's a lot on the toes. I can see why, though. Yeah, all those supports need to be there. There actually needs to be more on this base. Alright. Actually, there needs to be one there. Alright. And then I believe this model was the base. This is my assumption. Yep. My assumption was correct. I 100% agree that more models need to be light up, for sure. I'm gonna let you glue this base on because I don't know how that one's going to line up with the character. I'm gonna print two because there's two things that need mini bases, so I'm just gonna go ahead and duplicate this. Oh, you know what I should have done? I'm actually gonna do that now. Rotate. It needs to be pretty much that orientation. Or to print correctly. So I'm gonna just give it a little bit like that, so there's a little less surface area all at once, and then I begin feeling lucky. Well, he sits on it. Oh, well, let me text my wife back. Okay. Alright, so we're feeling lucky. That is terrible. I'm gonna go back to prepare. And we're just gonna go ahead and do that around the entire rim. And let's just do sporadic. Give some extra support. I like how it's all clumped. It's because the letters. Alright. Oh, I'm not letting that happen. Holy crap. No. Those will never come off, and they're not even doing anything. They're not doing anything. What the frick is that? Alright. That's a little too close for what I want. Alright, duplicate. The cool thing about Lychee is that when you hit duplicate on a supported object, it'll actually keep the supports. And that is ready to print. Export. My USB is not currently in my computer, but I will export. License the file regardless. It's a good idea. Always keep a repair kit in your bag. It helps a ton. So, there's now just an ad on my screen because I'm too cheap to go pro yet. Going pro, man. I'm gonna just navigate to Zane just so I can. It's the quick way of going to this. Go to Keller Mini Parts. and save the slice. That's ready to go. That's done. So in the meantime, I'm actually going to open Mesh Mixer back up. Oh yeah, no, it saved my ass so many times. Oh, I don't have a... It's not supposed to be capturing Mesh Mixer. I don't know why it's doing that right now, but... Oh well. I'm going to open... Let's go to Zane. I have to import Zane. So the first Kitbash I did for Zane, I'm not sure what Find Greater Steed he's going to go with. Of course, you're very welcome. I don't know what Find Greater Steed is going to go with yet, so I made two. One is a Pegasus. And as soon as it loads. Alright. This is Zane on a Pegasus. For reference, I'm going to import pinned. I'm going to show you what Zane started as. In fact, I'm going to have all the different iterations of Zane on this in a minute. That's what Zane started as. And then he's on the horse. So I'm going to go ahead and import Zane on a horse. Bear with me, the loading takes forever. So first iteration of Zane was actually just replacing this glaive and taking the sheath off. And then we have Zane on the horse. And then you can see that I also repositioned the glaive when he's on the Pegasus, so it doesn't actually run into the link. And then the third option I'm going with for Zane, I'm going to keep to myself. But I'm painting him this weekend, and I really want the paint job and everything about that model to be kind of a surprise, unless I choose to stream painting. But yeah, no, this is like kind of the growth of Zane, my character, at a campaign I play in. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really do anything different than what I showed tonight. I did a little bit more deleting and repositioning, but in all honesty, you could take what I taught you tonight or showed you tonight, and you could do this sort of thing. This particular model was a file that I bought online, had a writer on it, and that's what I actually used for Zane with stirrups and everything. I actually stole the legs off of that character, but these cloth pieces right here are these cloth pieces right here. I did all of that repositioning just like I did for the Raven's toes and feet and everything. It was the same process. And then once I had him on the stirrups, it was pretty easy to transfer him onto the Pegasus. Though the Pegasus wings were almost vertical. And so I had to reposition those wings down into a more natural looking position while Zane was riding on him. Um, so that was exactly what I did, like with the Raven. It really is that simple. It's not hard to kitbash. I highly encourage more people to do so. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for tonight. I got everything done that I wanted to get done tonight, and I hope everyone learned something that watched. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. I will see you guys another time.